Hello, and welcome to Nerds Now Playing, a Feely Creative podcast, a podcast where we review movies, new and old. This is our first episode, episode 1 at the Feely Creative Podcast Studio in Salina, Kansas. I'm Devin Frederking. I work as a creative director at Feely Creative, and I'm joined by Tim Burns. Tim, what do you do professionally?
So I am Feely Creative's multimedia specialist, which means I just kind of do all the things that everyone else doesn't necessarily do.
So this is in media production. So what kind of stuff does that kind of look like?
For me, that involves editing videos. It involves editing audio, the creation of voiceover if necessary. I also do a bit of animation, and I also am the primary drone pilot for the company. So I do a lot of drone work.
Oh, sweet. Drones flying around, getting those cool aerial shots.
It's the best. It's like playing a video game.
Oh, cool. Because you have the controller, you have the screen and all that.
Oh, yeah. It's like playing on a big Game Boy, except the game is get the best shots you've ever gotten every time.
And does it give you a rating at the end like Sonic does? Rank C, B?
Usually it's at least an A- most of the time. If the shot is super terrible, then the drone will just crash out of the sky. It knows.
So how many drones have you gone through then because of that?
I have not personally gone through any. Other people in our company have destroyed at least one drone.
Well, that's good to have a good, clean record and have other people to blame.
That's true. I won't say that I haven't technically bumped the drone into things. I have indeed actually bumped the main drone that we lost before into the ceiling of this podcast area.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I was trying to record the sound for the drone, and I took off a little bit too fast. That was, of course, before the renovation.
Hopefully that didn't bring down your morale.
No, I found it hilarious.
Well, so some of the things on this podcast we want to talk about movies and games and some other things like that. But we've had a busy week this week, both work related and fun related. But what are some of the things you've been watching, Tim?
Myself, I attend a regularly scheduled weekly movie night, and we just finished watching RRR, which is I believe, Tollywood film, and it is just one heck of a wild ride, I gotta say. If you're worried about films having physics being actually accurate to the real world, don't worry about that for this movie because they don't exist. And there's also musical numbers and fight scenes.
I also was a part of a movie night this last week, too.
Really? Crazy.
And we watched RRR as well.
Maybe we should combine our movie nights.
Yeah. You and I, because we're going to the same movie night. We watch some movies every week on a Wednesday. We watched RRR. That was a pretty wild movie.
It really is, and it's absolutely worth watching.
That's in a lot of people's top 10 movies of 2022.
It should be.
And that's how I got clued into it. And then when I watched it for the first time, because I watched it the second time with you, and I was kind of blown away about how much stuff is in this movie visually and stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's almost like it's an Indian film, but there's like fight sequences that wouldn't be out of place in a Chinese wushu film or something like that.
Oh, definitely.
And then they have musical numbers and all this stuff, and it's so visually all over like in a good way. It goes to all these different places of visual stuff, and it's like and it's 3 hours long of this.
It's so worth the 3 hours. Like I am not at all sad that I spent that time. Have you been playing anything this week?
Yeah, I've been playing. I recently. I've been playing a game called Elden Ring.
Welcome to the Souls fan base, boy.
A friend of mine insisted I play Elden Ring, and I intended to. I wasn't going to not play it, but he went as far as buying me a PlayStation 5 so that I could play Elden Ring. a PlayStation 5 that I didn't have to pay him back for. But I got that figured out. We returned the PlayStation 5, but he purchased it for me on Steam. So I've been playing through Elden Ring, and it's a challenging game, but I like it a lot. My friend thinks I've been playing it the wrong way. I like to been grinding on that game so I can level up and stuff and have a little bit easier time, because that's how I like to. I don't like to be too overwhelmed, but that game still is challenging. But
there is not a necessarily a wrong way to play a Souls game. I'll be honest. And this one is probably the most accessible to new players because you can do exactly that. You can, if you're having trouble with a boss, you can go away for a while and grind and level up and find different weapons that you like, or you can try sorcery and stuff like that, and it will make a difference. So it's really all about what your playstyle is and what you like to do. So there's not really a wrong way.
Well, my friend thinks there's a wrong way, but I guess I don't really care. I like to be a little bit OP and then plow through enemies like I'm the Terminator or something.
Well, there is a thing amongst the Soulsbourne community that people will do like level 1 runs where they just stay level 1 the entire time without armor at all, and basically the goal is just don't get hit ever.
Those people are called legends, I guess.
Oh, they are. Let Me Solo Her is one of those. I do not have the dedication nor the mental stamina to do that. I would rather enjoy my playthrough as much as possible instead of banging my head against a wall for 15 hours, or in this case, 100 hours.
Now, you beat the game.
I have, yes.
How many hours did it take you?
It took me 105 hours.
That seems... So other people, well, probably would be me. It would be a 200-hour game, I think.
I mean, I didn't do absolutely everything. I did do all the main bosses and all the the big bosses, but I didn't find all the catacombs. I didn't collect every piece of armor. I'm not a completionist by any means, but when it comes to the Souls games, I do like to fight all the big bosses as much as possible. So Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, I fought every boss that I possibly could, which includes all the bosses in the DLCs, and the DLCs are what have the hardest bosses. But I made it through those. So, and those are in those games you can't necessarily. I mean, you can grind a little bit, but it doesn't have the ability to just go to a completely different area. Especially the third Dark Souls 3 is especially very linear. So, but I still like the experience.
Yeah, and I haven't really played it this week a whole lot, but because me and a friend also play Warzone, Warzone 2. We've gotten a little obsessed with playing that game. We try to find ways to break it a little bit, but we've been on this kick of we drop into the match, and we just get in vehicles and we troll people by running them over a whole match, you haven't played Warzone yourself, but
I haven't. I'm more of a Fortnite player.
They just had this new feature for Warzone 2 that came out where you can do proximity chat. You can hear other players talking when you're next to them and stuff. So, it annoys my friend because he has to put all of his concentration on what he's doing. So when there's other people talking, it's distracting. But what I've been finding really fun when we're running people over with cars, you can hear their reactions to it, and they usually curse you out and get really annoyed with you. I love that. And so we've been playing Warzone a little bit too much lately because it's just been so satisfying to just bulldoze people over with cars when they're not expecting cars. They kind of don't know what to do with it. So we've been playing Warzone 2 a lot. That game came out a couple months ago. Warzone 1 was pretty popular for a good while. So and then Warzone 2 came out. Had a lot of good, cool changes, but we've been playing that through a lot too.
Very nice. I know as far as new games come out for myself, Nintendo just released an update for their Nintendo Switch Online, which now includes original Game Boy games and Game Boy Advance, which dropped yesterday. So in a little bit of free time that I had before other evening activities I had to be part of, I did get to play a bit of Mario and the Six Golden Coins, which is a personal favorite of mine.
Oh, fun.
Oh, heck yeah. That game is amazing.
So I saw that Nintendo Direct too, and I think they announced older games, and I'm more excited about those than most of the other announcements, which I'm also excited about. But when they said Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games you can play it on Nintendo Online, I was like, yes.
Oh yeah, the biggest thing from that Direct for me personally was the new trailer for Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. But besides that, like the Game Boy announcement, I kind of lost my mind a little bit. Like I was so excited for that.
Yeah,
and I think that really just stems like you and I we're a bit older, and we have experience. Like we grew up playing those handheld devices, so there's a lot of nostalgia.
But for our audience out there, Tim is older than me, so just like putting that out there.
That is a lie.
That is very much true. I am. So why don't we get what we're going to be talking about our movie today?
That's right, and it is a horror movie. Devin, do you have a favorite horror movie?
A favorite horror movie? Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't know if I truly do.
For me, it's Psycho.
Psycho is a good one.
The classic one, not the remake, the shot-for-shot remake with Vince Vaughn.
Have you seen Psycho 2?
I actually have. Like I've seen bits and pieces of it. So interestingly, my mom actually saw that one before she saw the original in theaters. But I've never seen the second one. I know it's like the family of the main character from the first one, I guess, is trying to get vengeance.
Well, from what I think you should try watching. I fear that it's actually pretty decent.
You fear that it is?
No, I hear that it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I hear that it's pretty decent. If it's the Psycho 2 I'm thinking of, because it is shot in color, I believe. But I think, but I've heard really good things, but I have not watched it before.
Okay.
But Psycho, that's a good one. But as far as my favorite horror movie, I mean, I don't know.
Is The Thing considered a horror film?
I would say so. It's pretty gnarly with I'd say The Thing is. Is Jaws considered a horror film? 'Cause that's one of my actual favorite films of all time. Is Jaws and Jurassic Park.
I can see it being considered a horror film. But I mean, could you call Jurassic Park a horror film?
I wouldn't strictly call it a horror film. It has horror elements, but it's kind of like a science fiction thriller, maybe. But if I were to say my favorite horror film, maybe The Shining.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that movie, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. It's intense. Jack Nicholson.
He does a heck of a job.
Yeah, so I would probably say The Shining.
That is a good call. That is absolutely a good call. Well, we should probably get into talking about the actual movie we're talking about today. Before I reveal the name of that title, I will just say that it is like RoboCop's Ed 209 mixed with the movie Small Soldiers, to me at least.
Interesting.
But it is perhaps technology in toys has gone a little bit too far in the movie we watched called M3GAN. Let's talk about it.
Then the soundbite thing plays for M3GAN?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So M3GAN, what were some of your first takeaways of M3GAN?
And this could just be because I'm not a huge watcher of horror films. In general, my takeaways are that the movie was very tame. As far as horror movies go, I didn't find it particularly scary or really even like surprising. There was a lot that I felt was very predictable, and there were elements of it that I also felt were I don't want to disparage her too much, but I feel like the main child actor that was not M3GAN, I did not feel like was very good.
Interesting. So M3GAN is I have a synopsis here for M3GAN. I think I'll let me read it real quick. What I found on the internet. It says M3GAN is a marvel of artificial intelligence, a lifelike doll that's programmed to be a child's greatest companion and a parent's greatest ally, designed by Gemma's brilliant roboticist, who is a brilliant roboticist. M3GAN can listen, watch, and learn as it plays a role of a friend and a teacher, a playmate, and a protector. When Gemma becomes the unexpected caretaker of her 8-year-old niece, she decides to give the girl a M3GAN prototype, a decision that leads to unimaginable consequences. Yeah, so M3GAN, I went and saw this in the theaters. M3GAN came out in January, so it's one of the first horror movies we're getting for 2023. And as a January release, that's usually not a great sign for most movies. In case you didn't know,
I think I did hear that recently, that most don't perform well.
Yeah, January is kind of like the dumping ground of movies that studios don't have much faith in. But I thought M3GAN, in that context, I think M3GAN was pretty good overall. I kind of liked it. I was like, when the movie started, they have like these fake commercials and stuff, and I was not expecting that. So it kind of like has this little seeds of like social commentary and like consumerism critiques in there that wouldn't be out of place in like a Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop movie, which I thought was hilarious. But overall, I thought like M3GAN was pretty decent. Like there was some moments on there like I didn't like, wasn't totally wowed by, but I thought it was a pretty decent horror movie. And I went and saw that with my girlfriend, and
Brag about
it. Yes, she loves horror movies, but one thing she hates in horror movies is when anything crawls. And that movie, there is crawling in that movie, so it thoroughly freaked her out. So, and I think she liked it overall too. But yeah, overall, I did think it was pretty good.
I mean, there are definitely elements that I thought were good. Would you consider, so in a lot of the reviews I was looking at online, and we'll get to the actual reviews later on, but there are a lot of folks who felt like the movie in general was pretty funny. So would you consider it to be more of like almost like a black comedy?
The commercials they had in that movie, which I looked it up, it was the Perpetual Pets. They opened up with that.
Which, to speak to that, the fact that, and I have a few thoughts on that in general. In the opening dialogue they have for that, it says that they will live longer than you.
Yeah.
Which, that's a horrifying thought. Also, and this involves a visual aid, why do they have a human mouth? I don't know if you noticed this. I have images.
Oh, so, you have photos of
I do.
The
so this is
Perpetual.
This is a close up, a close up of it, and then to make it even closer.
Oh god!
Like, why does that? Like, that is more horrifying than M3GAN is.
That looks like. So Tim is holding up a photo of the Perpetual Pet. It looks like a Furby that has had its lips ripped off, or a burn victim Furby.
Like, that is just genuinely unsettling. Like, and I was not someone who was put off by Furbies growing up. Like, I was never afraid of them. I never had, like, I did have one, but like, it never did the traditional like battery winding down where it starts to sound like a demonic troll. But that just threw me off. Like, I literally wrote down like, why does it have a human mouth? And then I do feel like some of the humor in this movie, like regarding those, there were several moments where like, early on in the film, where the main girl, Katie, she has one in the car with her parents, and it's just making fart jokes, which like that appeals to some people. I'm not that demographic necessarily, but I feel like that is an attempt to just like, because the movie is rated PG-13, it feels like it's geared towards like, kids think farts are funny. Let's just throw that in there.
You don't like a good fart sound before a depiction of a car crash death?
No, not particularly.
I should probably warn our audience that we might have some spoilers unintentionally in this discussion, but
probably a good thing to say.
But we're already like midway through February, so if you haven't seen M3GAN yet, what are you doing?
True. Also, now I did not see it in theaters, but I did watch it at home. So, but then also, so I don't know if this is the name that comes with her Perpetual Pet, but she named it. But it's named Leroy. I feel like that's a very bizarre name for a child to give something.
Well, she's a creative thinker, and names are very important.
Fair point. So in this scene with the car crash, which I found their death to be predictable. Like I was sitting there going like, the car is stalled. I wonder what will happen soon. Yep, they're dead. But like, why was she not wearing her seatbelt the entire time? Like, I mean, I realize like I don't always wear my seatbelt, but like, you're on a mountain road in a snowy area, like.
So then you'd definitely be wearing your seatbelt. Is that what you're saying? If you're on a snowy mountain road?
Well, yeah.
But what if you had your perpetual pet?
I'd make sure it was also seatbelted. I would want to take care of it.
So M3GAN stars Allison Williams as Gemma, and Allison Williams has been in a lot of horror movies.
Has she?
Yeah, well, she's been in the.
Wait, she's Katie?
Allison Williams plays Gemma, the aunt.
Was she in Invisible Man? As the.
That was not. That was Elizabeth Moss.
Okay. Or was she? Oh wait, no. Was she in Smile? Was she the therapist in Smile?
No, that was actually Kevin Bacon's daughter in Smile.
Oh.
So Allison Williams was in Get Out.
Oh, that's what I know her from. She was the girlfriend in Get Out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's been in some other horror movies, names of which I cannot remember, but she was in a little string of them. She plays the aunt in the movie, and so M3GAN. Oh man, what was that little girl's name?
The daughter?
Yeah,
Katie.
Katie was her name.
Yeah, Cady, I think is how it's actually spelled.
Oh.
So KD, not KT.
KD. So yeah, Katie loses her parents and goes and moves in with Gemma, who plays her aunt, who has surprisingly has like little knickknacks that you don't play with. She has those collector's items and stuff like that. Yeah. So she goes and moves in with her, and what I found what I liked, one of the things I kind of liked about the movie is that is making it's like Gemma. Jeez, Gemma is making these horrifying like dolls as a side project. Well, I guess I didn't know if I liked it, but like they have these disturbing little perpetual pets things, and she's working on this side project with this pretty creepy doll thing.
Which I wrote down during that section, like, does the company know that she's working on this? Because like it feels like they're spending a lot of money that the company doesn't know about. Like, how does that happen? Because I feel like in a big company like that, assuming it's a big company, like they would have to be having someone look at that budget, right?
Yeah, probably. Well, the boss in that movie was not quite too happy.
He yelled and threw things a lot weirdly. Like he threw a tablet. He later on throws his drink when he's shouting for a kombucha.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Get me a kombucha.
It's like they're setting up that we don't like this guy. He's a jerk.
Oh, he's gonna die for sure.
So M3GAN starts to become kind of.
I would say possessive.
Yeah. She's really starts
Very
to become protective of Katie, and starts like, I don't know, be very aggressive as a toy. Like we were watching it in the theaters, and when we went and saw the theaters, by the way, we were just by ourselves for some reason in the theater. I think we went on a Tuesday or something, so we had the whole theater to ourselves, so we were able to talk about things. But M3GAN was acting like a bratty 8-year-old would or something, and we were just like, oh heck no, don't you talk back to us, M3GAN. Bad M3GAN, bad.
I dare you. Yeah, she kind of addresses it later in the film, like near the end, where she's talking to Gemma, saying, like, you literally gave me nothing. I had to figure all this stuff out for myself. So like that kind of explains a little bit of her behavior. If she was just going from the internet and trying to like pull just stuff from that to like inform herself. So I could see where that would steer her towards going wrong. But also like apparently they didn't code in like very many protocols before trying this prototype. And there were other concerns. Like I know probably the biggest concern from like her coworkers were like, are you really going to introduce this thing to your niece who probably needs some genuine human contact to be taken care of after her parents died. And like she's like, no, it's fine. Like, and Gemma's like, no, it's fine. Like, I don't have time for a child, even though I'm going to take the responsibility of being her caretaker. Which, by the way, one of my thoughts as I was writing down after her parents died were, I know it's probably a bit inconvenient to be a caretaker, but you could at least offer your niece a hug. Like, good God, like your family just died.
She has to go on this just journey of knowing how to actually interact with children.
I mean, I don't interact with children, but like if a child just died, I would at least try and comfort her somewhat. Like offer a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something.
Well, I don't think it's all Gemma's fault though. Katie,
well, no.
Like I had a Furby growing up. But if it was the size of M3GAN the doll, I don't know if I'd be lugging that around all the time. Probably look for some kids to interact with.
You didn't have a My Buddy?
No.
My buddy.
No.
You never? Oh man, I wish I had. So I did have one of those at one point. Like I think we got it from like a garage sale or something. And like I don't remember playing with toys almost like all that much. Like it was one like I had it, but like I don't think I carried it around. I more had like I had a small, well now it's small to me, but a Saint Bernard dog that I believe it actually came out before the movie Beethoven, but I actually did name it Beethoven because of my favorite composer, or at the time it was my favorite composer. So like that was what I carried around most of the time.
Now this movie is rated PG-13.
Which apparently initially it was supposed to be rated R, and I guess there was extra shots that were a lot more gory. But they were like apparently the producers saw it and were like, "This is close enough to PG-13. Let's just make it PG-13." Which I haven't seen a lot of PG-13 rated horror films, but I feel like it's just falling short.
Well,
of its potential.
It didn't have a lot of the gore stuff, but for some reason, like they have the scene where the dog is. I think M3GAN goes to retrieve something through the hole in the fence.
Yeah, the arrow.
And the neighboring dog is, which is causing poops in their yard and all this stuff. But it pulls M3GAN the doll, which is a big no through the hole and roughs her up a bit. But for some reason those kinds of scenes where we know the dog's now a target. Something about animal violence in movies is really kind of messed up to me and creepy though. Did you feel that same way with that?
With that one, I mean, I definitely knew it was coming, but it is very creepy, especially with like as bad as that dog was. And granted, the neighbor should have done a better job, or Gemma should have at least, patched the giant hole in her fence. I'm not happy the dog got killed. Like, it didn't deserve that, certainly. I mean, it's not like it's Cujo that it's like super rabid and attacking everything in sight.
The movie doesn't have a lot of gore.
It does not. And not that all horror movies need it, because like Psycho doesn't really have much gore, and it's very effective to me.
Yeah, so this movie does do a good job of setting up like tension and suspense and things like that with like the dog, the little boy in the woods. We have the scene where the bully, who as an audience member, like the bully's obviously a jerk, and you want something like some kind of justice to maybe happen to the bully, but things go escalate into not great things like overreaction kind of stuff.
Oh, definitely.
But the movie does do a good job of having suspense instead of gore and a lot of jump scares that we kind of watched.
That is fair. I will say during that scene, and I guess I'm trending towards being somewhat like negative towards the film. The scene where she was fighting with the boy and she was ripping his ear off, his ear stretched far too much.
Really? You haven't? I thought it stretched. I
don't feel like human ears work that way.
The right amount.
I mean, granted, I haven't seen a ear being ripped off in process in real life, and I hope to never have that experience.
Stretch Armstrong is a accurate depiction of the human anatomy.
Yeah, if we're all Mr. Fantastic.
Which we should be. In this movie universe, they are.
Oh, well, in that case, it's fine.
They just haven't realized it yet. And maybe that's for M3GAN too. So one of the things that One of the things that's really talked about in this movie is the viral dance that happens in the movie. So there's a part that the director, I guess, didn't want it to be part of the marketing material, but they put it in there anyway. M3GAN does this dance that became a huge viral thing. I don't know how huge is, but
It got pretty big. Apparently, at the premiere, like there was a group of people who dressed up as M3GAN and did the dance. And talk about the virality of that dance. It's true the director, I don't think, wanted it in there, but once that became viral, that seemed to be like all they marketed. Like it was just like, I can't tell you how many times on YouTube or Facebook I came across the M3GAN and it was just that dance. Literally all it was.
Which really isn't that long in the movie either.
It really isn't. It's like 5 seconds.
Yeah,
Well, 10 seconds.
She does the dance and she rips off the paper cutter blade and moves on.
And she does the thing that all horror movie villains do, which is walk very slowly towards the guy before they kill them.
But I will say, like, I kind of like, I don't know if you have, but I watched some behind the scenes stuff of the movie, and they had like a little, I don't know how old she was, but she was a young performer, probably like a dancer of some kind, and then they did some, like, I don't know if they did makeup or prosthetics or CG on the face, but she has a real fluidity to her, which was pretty neat. So I like the design and stuff.
I would agree with that. So there is for the majority of I would say probably the majority of the film, the M3GAN is actually a puppet for most of it. But then those scenes like the dancing sequence where she didn't be in full frame walking around, then it is that actress who actually also did all of her own stunts. Including the crawling scene in the forest, which it seems odd that I feel like running on 2 legs would have been faster and more effective. But maybe she was going for the scare tactic rather than catching up. Because I will say that going on 4 is off-putting and unsettling. But yeah, so she, from what I remember seeing, so they had I think special gloves that look more plastic on her hands, and then they put a kind of a plastic, not a plastic, but like almost like a rubber mask over her face. Initially, it was supposed to have replications of like M3GAN's eyes in it, but apparently she couldn't see through those, and so they took them out. So when you just see her by herself, you just see this actress with a rubber mask on and like 2 dark holes where eyes should be, which is almost more unsettling. But they did go through and do some face replacement for those sequences.
Oh, interesting. Pretty cool stuff on that. So a lot of the puppeteering, they have a lot of mix of stuff to make that happen.
Yeah, which I will say, like, I do think the puppeteering is very, like, it's subtle enough that it works really well. Visually, I mean, the doll is just close enough to looking human that it is off-putting, which there is an actual word for that, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. But I did like the design of M3GAN. I thought it was effective.
Yeah. So
sorry, I'm going through my notes here. I was so during the run of this film, part of the big thing with Gemma is that she does end up introducing her boss to M3GAN instead of coming up with the new design for the perpetual pet, which is what she was supposed to be doing. Because she introduced her niece to M3GAN. It's like, there's potential here. So like they kind of rush it, and they go through this big kind of campaign. And you see these different little shots and commercials and stuff about what M3GAN can do and what she is, and like how she can be a pal, and she can also like correct certain behaviors in your children, so you don't have to. So you don't have to have a genuine connection with your child. Which it strikes me as like the weirdest one. Like the main Katie has to be told to flush and wash her hands all the time. Like I don't spend time around children ever because I don't have them. But like, is that really that big a deal in children? Sydney is saying yes to me. Okay.
Well, I watched it with my girlfriend Which, by the way, I have a girlfriend.
Have you? I've never.
But
you haven't mentioned that at all.
well, when we were watching the movie, every time Megan was telling her to wash her hands, like my girlfriend was wondering, why the heck aren't you just washing your hands, little girl? You disgusting little girl.
Especially washing your hands, but like just the not flushing, like
Oh yeah, that too.
That
well,
strikes
that too.
me as a very
yeah.
that strikes me as a very boy behavior to not do. But granted, I don't know what her home life was like, and I don't have children, so I don't.
Well, that in that regard, this Katie in this movie needs a Megan, because if you don't know how to properly take care of yourself,
Clearly,
you disgusting little girl.
which makes me wonder if her parents were doing anything. Like, did she have any discipline or teaching at home?
They didn't get to that chapter in the Raise a Child book.
She was like 11.
It comes at age 12.
Fair enough then.
I don't know. Little kids are like little robots too, and you have to take care of them and tell them how to flush, which was apparently missed in this movie. But, well, so anyways, So anyway, did you think the movie was like really scary though?
No, not at all for me. Like I was not, and I don't think. Let's see. I'm pretty sure I watched it in the evening time, which usually because I don't watch a lot of horror films, I tend to watch them like during the day. Like I watch The Exorcist midday, so I'm like, I don't want to be home alone in case I am genuinely scared of this. So like I watched it, and it wasn't scary to me at all. I was like, oh hey, killer doll. That's never been done before, ever in another movie.
Yeah, I don't like.
Or like a killer AI.
A lot of movies don't seem to scare me much, and this one didn't.
And that
this one also did not.
Like since we work with film a lot, like I think we like are looking for those like different angles and like thinking more critically about the filmmaking process. Which I don't know if I know you took Paul Green's classes.
For the audience out there, I went to college and took classes.
I also did at the same college he went to, but years later. Because Devin's older than me, not the reverse. But like there was one of my classes with him. He mentions like, as soon as you take this class, you will hate watching movies because you will be looking for everything. So like, I don't know if it's that aspect that I'm just like I can tell the trends, or maybe I'm just actively looking for them now. Or it could just be I already had a preconceived notion with this movie, but it definitely was not scary or creepy to me in the slightest.
Well, all right. So let's get into some trivia stuff about the movie.
Okay.
So you have found some trivia stuff for us. What are some interesting tidbits about this film?
So probably to start off with, so the budget for this movie was $12 million.
Oh, that's not very much.
It is not for a horror film, which is why, I mean, it looks fairly good. And that's why like the puppeting, like that looks really well done. So like, I'm happy that was the takeaway. And like I think a lot of horror movies probably tend to have a smaller budget.
And this is a Blumhouse production, isn't it?
Yeah, it is Blumhouse.
So they tend to make little lower production movies, horror that.
I think A24 tends to have a bigger budget for most of theirs. But yeah, I mean, $12 million, not very much, but it looks good. It's well done, and then the design of Megan is effective.
So how much money did this movie make?
So from what I saw online, the gross was $158.7 million worldwide. $87.6 million of that was domestic in U.S. and Canada, and then $71 million internationally. And then on opening weekend, it was $30 million across 3,500 theaters is what it made.
So the logo in M3GAN, they have the E in M3GAN is turned around for the number 3.
It depends on what you look at, because like online it's a 3, but like in the actual promotion it's like 3 sensor bars.
So it sounds like they should have probably just used a $sign in there instead.
How would you say that?
I don't. Mei Cha-ching.
That's a good way to do it.
She prints money in addition to teaches children how to flush.
Ah, yes, the 2 things that are important in life. And only those things. Let's see. So you mentioned actually earlier, well, we've already mentioned RoboCop and there's a moment in the movie where Gemma is using a pen to track Megan's eye movement. And I didn't realize that at the time, but that scene is actually pretty reminiscent to a scene in the original RoboCop when Officer Murphy is being reconstructed into RoboCop, where they're kind of testing his vision.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of an homage to that a little bit. So Devin, do you know any of the other trivia there, Devin?
Let's see. M3GAN's voice is modeled in part off of another famous AI gone rogue. Am I saying this right? GLaDOS.
Gladys.
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 From Portal. Is that? And that's the video game Portal from 2007.
Have you never played Portal?
I have not played Portal.
Oh my gosh, dude! You have to play Portal. You must. I insist.
I know that there are portals.
There are indeed portals. It is a puzzle type game. So like, if you like the puzzles in Zelda, this is much more puzzly. There is also in the second game, there's a co-op campaign. So and you have to use both people to make it through. It's actually really, really fun. So I highly recommend Portal.
Yeah, I might check it out sometime. I think it's on Steam.
It is. Well, actually, I believe they just re-released both the first and second game. I think on the Switch as well, or it's supposed to come out soon.
I think you're right. Well, I'll check it out. But this is I guess they used it was modeled off of that voice from Portal. So any Portal fans out there, check out M3GAN. You might catch that. So I see here it says M3GAN stands for Model 3 Generative Android. I do remember the Model 3 thing being a part of the thing. I just don't know what the 3... Oh, well...
Which I guess that makes sense if that's where the 3 is from. But... And
James... Is his name James Wan?
I believe so,
James Wan. I thought I might get that right. The director of the first Saw movie and...
Oh, I didn't realize he did Saw.
Yep.
That makes sense. I've never seen Saw because I don't want to.
Now that is a gory, scary movie. He said that pretty much the concept is about embracing technology too much and relying on it too much, and what happens when technology runs amok. It's a commentary on the world we live in, and it feels relevant today. Which
I will definitely agree with that aspect, because we've become so dependent on technology, but to kind of a weird state to me. Like people who have like I don't have Alexa or like the Google Box because I just don't really want it or need it. Like I can look up things for myself on my phone, which is already tracking my search history anyway. But like smart fridges and smart locks on your house. If the only way to get into my house is by like a vocal print, like what happens if it glitches and I just can't get into my house anymore? Or like it's getting to a point where like it's becoming more overly complicated than necessary. In my opinion.
Yeah, I have some friends that they use the Google lights and stuff, so they're constantly telling Google turn on this light and that light, which I think is cool.
Like it's neat.
I'm just not motivated to set something up like that in my house, but they have everything controlled by their voice.
Like I just think that's unnecessary. Like get up and turn off the dang light. It doesn't take that much effort.
And sorry for members of our audience out there that use those features and are like them.
No judgment, but also some judgment. But it's kind of almost like harkening back a little bit to, in thinking about like killer AI, it reminds me of HAL from 2001: Space Odyssey. Because his goal was also like I think initially to protect.
Oh yes, HAL, but this one is GAL.
Nice.
All right, so Tim, you've pulled up some reviews that you found online.
So
what we got here.
So in looking at the different reviews and the ratings that there are, Rotten Tomatoes, which is kind of the go-to standard I think most of the time now, it is a 94% certified fresh.
That's pretty high.
That is very high. So it is a much higher. Pardon me. So it is a much higher score than personally I gave it. But they said it was unapologetically silly and all the more entertaining for it. M3GAN is the rare horror comedy that delivers chuckles as effortlessly as chills. Which, that's why I brought up earlier. It feels more like a black comedy. But the audience score was 78%. Audience says, as long as you aren't looking for something truly scary or even surprising, M3GAN is a lot of fun, which that is definitely more my opinion.
Yeah, I think the most surprising thing was those commercials at the beginning.
Honestly, which by the way, I had something on that. One of the points early on in the film as well is the competitor to this company, or a competitor, somehow got hands out of like making their own for cheaper. And like along with that weird commercial at the beginning where it says like it'll live longer than you. So this off-brand, they're called Furzies instead of perpetual pets, and their butts change color to show their mood.
Which I loved when I watched that in the movie.
It was funny. It's just like which that is definitely like over the top ridiculous. Which I feel like if you want a more like ridiculous and fun, more comedic horror film, The Babysitter or The Babysitter, the Second Killer Queen, I felt were more funny and more interesting to watch. Which we also watched at movie night.
Yeah, that's right. One of your other audience reviews is, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's very disappointing. I had high hopes based on the marketing in the trailer, but it just didn't deliver. The plot was incredibly predictable, and the acting wasn't good. I'd say the acting in the movie was for M3GAN herself. I found myself sitting in the theater bored and wishing the movie would just end already.
Which it feels like, I think it seems like the general audience reaction is pretty mid in most of the reviews that I found. Because I wanted to try and do a thing with this where if it's a really, really good movie, then I would find really lowly rated things, like if it was like critically acclaimed, and then the opposite if it were a bad movie. But this is a pretty mid-range movie to me. And most of the reviews seem to kind of be similar. As far as like actually wordy ones, other ones were usually like one sentence being like, it was good, or it was funny, or it was terrible. Like there wasn't a lot of in between. But as far as the ratings go, Google gives it a 3.7. Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars. And on IMDb, it is a 6.4 out of 10.
Nice. Now, what would you recommend this? Do you want to give it a score? Is your thing giving movie scores?
I don't usually, but in this case, I think I would give it I'd give it a solid 5 out of 10. Like it's
a solid 5 out of 10.
A 5 out of 10. It's okay.
Solid failing grade.
That's right. It is more like, in my mind, M3GAN.
Oh man, M3GAN. Oh no.
Like it's okay. Like I wouldn't say don't watch it. Like see for yourself whether or not you like it. Like it's not terrible, but it's not like super amazing in my mind. So it's very mid-tier.
Well, I'm kind of in the same range though. But I would probably I'd give it a 6 out of 10 if I were to nail a number to it. So it's kind of lower on my.
So a D instead of an F.
Yes, right. It will still. Well, I don't know. Do D's get diplomas? I don't know, but
I think they are technically passing nowadays.
But I liked how the movie opened with their commercials, these perpetual pets. I thought it was like, wow, this movie's like just going for something. It's just doing something wildly different. And but I do think the movie kind of like goes back into some normal horror movie tropes and like, which I think it's a very safe movie in that regard. Like we've seen a lot of like AI movies before that probably touched on the subject way better. But I think it's a pretty safe movie to watch on a Saturday night.
Yeah, it's decent.
It's not too scary. It has some disturbing moments in it, but
we should probably talk about the ending very quickly, just to sum up what happens. So at the very end of the film, M3GAN becomes even more possessive and basically threatens Gemma after a certain point. She goes crazy and kills people in the office building and comes home and threatens her. And then in a twist, kind of, Katie ends up seeing M3GAN being all threatening and suddenly turns against her with a robot that you see early in the film, which reminds me of Real Steel. And basically like fights her herself. And does the thing that Megatron does to Jazz in the Transformers movie where it rips her in half and throws her across the room. And that was unexpected, but I felt like there wasn't a lot of build up. Like the entire movie, Katie was either like, "Ooh, I love you," or no emotion at all, and then suddenly like, "Wow, you're taking care of the only family I have. You're trying to kill the only family I have left, but I love you. But suddenly I have to turn on you now." I don't know. It didn't feel like it was earned.
Yeah, it was very sudden, but I did enjoy the Rock'em Sock'em robot fight.
Oh, that was great. I also feel like at the end of the film, one of the pivotal things that that Gemma shows Kitty earlier in the film is where like the quote brain unquote for these robots is, and which is in the face, and Kitty stabbing with a screwdriver at the end. I kind of half wanted her to like there'd be like a really quick cut scene where she's just unscrewing the brain manually. But at the very end of the film, so they basically end up killing M3GAN, and the last shot you see is Gemma talking to the police, and through the door you see her. I think it's called Lexi, her like Alexa version or Google, which turns to see her. So I guess the hook is that M3GAN has uploaded herself into the internet, and so I mean it leaves itself open to a sequel. Which would you watch a sequel?
Well, I would. Yeah, I probably would. See where they go. This the director said that he will try not to do viral things or intentionally. So I'm interested to see if they expand on this. But it seems like it was a bigger hit than they even expected. But I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what Psycho M3GAN comes up. Does next with now the appliances in the kitchen. So, well, all right. So that's kind of wrapping up the time we have for today. That's about all the time we have for today. Tim, sounds like you would kind of recommend the movie. I would kind of recommend the movie. I think this is a worthwhile time. But be sure we were doing this as a weekly podcast where we have weekly reviews on movies. Check us out next time.
That's right. So join us next time on Nerds Now Playing.